There is a lie stitched in the very flag of this country, a sweet, comforting lie, repeated in every TV commercial, every commencement speech, and every office meeting. They call it the American dream. They say, "Work hard, son. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you will have the house with the white picket fence and the full bank account." I am here to tell you that this is a mathematical fraud. Look at the delivery driver racing to meet inhumane quotas. Look at the teacher who needs a second job as a waitress just to pay rent. Look at the factory worker in the Rust Belt. If hard work were synonymous with wealth, these would be the richest people in America, but they are not. They are the ones drowning in medical debt and student loans. Why? Where is the flaw in the logic? The flaw is in the physics of money. The flaw is in the gravity of zero. The first $100,000 is the hardest, most painful, and cruelest money you will ever earn. As my friend Charlie Munger said, it's a bitch. Not because you lack intelligence, but because at this stage you are fighting a nuclear war with a butter knife. You have no capital. And without capital, you are just a biological body selling time. And in America, selling time is a losing game. You cannot sell more than 24 hours. If you get sick and your insurance denies the claim, you break. If the company downsizes, the income dries up. You love to fantasize about compound interest. You look at those S&P 500 charts going up forever. You see Roth IRA calculators promising millions in retirement. And then you forget the inconvenient fact. Compound interest is useless if you have nothing to compound. 10% returns on zero is zero. 10% on the $1,000 you sweated to save at the end of the month is $100. That doesn't even pay your Verizon bill. That doesn't change your life. That is the cosmic joke. Everyone wants the snowball effect rolling down the Rockies, but no one wants to push the snowball up the hill first with bleeding hands while the cost of living tries to push you back down. Real life is not a spreadsheet. You decide to save, you stash away $2,000, you feel in control, and then the check engine light comes on. Or you have a medical emergency and discover the size of your deductible, or your landlord raises the rent by 20%. The system conspires to remind you that being poor in America is expensive. Overdraft fees, predatory credit card rates, late fines. The lack of liquidity is a tax you pay every single day. Do you think the rich in the Hamptons or Beverly Hills play the same game? Do not be naive. The rich man already has chips on the table. His money works in the stock market while he plays golf. If he loses 10%, he just rebalances the portfolio. If you lose your job, you lose your roof. The reason the first 100K is torture is simple. You are trying to generate wealth using only human traction. Imagine trying to move a freight train by pushing it from behind. That is what you are doing. First, inflation, the silent thief that turned a middle-class salary into a survival wage. Second, the IRS. Before you see the money, Uncle Sam has already taken his cut. Third, the glass ceiling of your own biology. You cannot hustle forever. If you are counting on the next bonus or your side hustle on DoorDash to get rich, you have already lost. Labor pays the bills, barely, but labor never compounds. Therefore, the first $100,000 is not a financial goal. It is a war of independence. You need to cross the valley of death, that period where you drive a 10-year-old car while your friends finance Teslas, where you cook at home while they max out cards on Sunday brunches. This is where most die spiritually. They look at the effort to save 10K or 20K and say, the dream is dead. I'll spend it. I'll live for today. But you know the only way out is through the fire. The gravity of zero is strong. Escaping the orbit of poverty requires violent escape velocity. But I promise you, the physics change. But first, we must talk about the enemy that lives inside your skull, the one trained by the greatest marketing machine in human history.
If the math of zero is cruel, American consumer culture is suicidal. You can blame the Federal Reserve, Wall Street, and inflation, but the greatest saboteur of your wealth is the reflection in the mirror. The human brain did not evolve for modern capitalism, and the American way of life was designed to exploit that flaw. The fastest way to guarantee you die poor in this country is simple. Increase your lifestyle every time you increase your income. We call this lifestyle creep. It is the national disease. You get a promotion. What do? Do you max out your 401k? Do you pay off your debts? No. You trade the Toyota for a financed BMW. You move out of the apartment and buy a house in the suburbs with a mortgage that eats 50% of your net income. You start buying $7 lattes and subscribe to every streaming service in existence. You say, I worked hard, I deserve this. I say, do you deserve to be a slave to Visa and MasterCard for the rest of your life? I knew lawyers in Manhattan and doctors in Los Angeles making $300,000, $500,000 a year. From the outside, they are the elite, but inside, they are broke. High earners, not rich yet. Henrys. They live paycheck to paycheck, just with more expensive toys. Why? Because they fell into the status game. They are trying to keep up with the Joneses, not knowing the Joneses are drowning in debt too. To save the first $100,000, you need to commit social suicide. You need to be the one driving the 2015 Honda Civic, the one bringing a lunchbox to the corporate office, the one who says no to the bachelor party in Vegas that would put $2,000 on the credit card. Society will judge you. Your friends will call you cheap. But let me be brutal. Real progress is invisible. Progress is the balance in the brokerage account that no one sees. It is the student loan you killed. The new car loses 20% of its value the second it drives off the lot. Designer clothes go out of style, but capital is an immortal soldier. The most dangerous trap is the feeling of deprivation in a land of abundance. When you save, the world turns gray. The dopamine dries up. And then an emergency happens.
a surprise medical bill for $3,000. If you have no capital, it is merely an inconvenience. Most people quit here. They see the balance drop and think, screw it, I'll buy the new iPhone on credit. If you cannot control the impulse to consume, you will never have the discipline to invest. You are a leaking bucket. I saw the Great Depression. I saw the dot-com bubble. Appearances do not compound. Status is a liability. Humility is an asset. If you want the first $100,000, kill your ego. But let's say you succeed, you save, you ignore the marketing. You now enter the most dangerous phase, where boredom kills more than the bullet. Welcome to the desert of waiting.
You defeated consumerism. You started accumulating. Now, welcome to purgatory. The American financial market is a casino disguised as a temple. It tries to sell you action, emotion, day trading, zero-day options, ODTE. But the path to wealth is boring. It is like watching paint dry. In the beginning, the math laughs in your face. You spend a whole year eating ramen and saving. You scrape together $25,000. You invest in a solid index fund, ETF. The market goes up 10%. You make $2,500. Divide that by 12 months. That's about $200 a month. That is an electric bill in winter. That is one trip to Whole Foods. You sacrificed a year of your life for this? This is where the mind breaks. You think, for what? I could have used that $25K to put a down payment on a boat or go on an epic trip. They strangle compound interest in the crib. No one wants to grind through the years where the returns don't impress anyone. But here is the cruel irony. These boring years are the toll. You cannot skip the desert. The numbers don't double just because you are in a rush. Fools look for shortcuts. They buy meme stocks. They throw money at obscure crypto coins promising to go to the moon. They use trading apps like video games. But real investing, if you're having fun, you're probably losing money. The trick isn't to be a Wall Street genius. The trick is not quitting when the numbers are small. If you can survive the psychological pain of seeing your $300 in quarterly dividends, which barely pays for dinner, and reinvesting them anyway, you will win. The desert is silent. No one will congratulate you for maxing out your Roth IRA. No one cares about your conservative portfolio. You are alone against the get-rich-quick culture. But if you keep walking, brick by brick, you will see something on the horizon, the end of the desert, and the beginning of alchemy. There is a moment that feels supernatural. Charlie Munger always said, the first 100K is a bitch, but you gotta do it. After that, life gets a little easier. He was being modest. Life changes completely. It is the day your capital earns more money than you can save from your salary. Until that moment, you were pushing the rock. But when you cross the $100,000 line, alchemy happens. Suddenly, 10% returns are $10,000. Think about that. $10,000.
That is a significant raise you just gave yourself without begging your boss. That is enough money to cover rent for months in many cities. It is the equivalent of having an invisible employee working 24/7 for you. And this employee doesn't get sick, doesn't sue you, and doesn't complain to HR. It just compounds. Capital says, "Relax, I'll carry some of the load now." For the first time, you stop being a worker. You become a capitalist. Leverage becomes real. The first 100K took 5-7 years of blood. The second 100K will come in 3 years. The third will come in 18 months. The day will come, and if you are disciplined, I swear it will come, when your portfolio swings in a single day more than you earn in a month of labor. On that day, you will look back at the young fool who wanted to spend the seed money on a financed car, and you will feel a chill down your spine. You almost killed the goose that lays the golden eggs before it laid the first one. Seeing the balance grow becomes more addictive than spending. You stop seeing money as things I can buy and start seeing it as soldiers I can enlist. The virtuous circle closes. And then the social phenomenon happens. The people around you, those who laughed at your old car, those who criticized your frugality, start looking at your progress. They see the snowball rolling down the hill, massive, powerful. And what do they say? He got lucky. He must have gotten into a scheme, must have inherited it. They see the alchemy, but they missed the decade of grinding that built the lab. They didn't see you studying balance sheets at night. They only see the result of compound interest and call it a miracle. It wasn't a miracle. It was endurance. When you have capital, doors open. Banks that used to despise you now offer you cheap credit. Business opportunities appear because you have the liquidity to strike at the right time. You have a seat at the table. But be careful, because it is exactly at the moment of victory, the moment you feel invincible, that the market prepares its final trap, the trap of arrogance. Reaching the first $100,000 is not the finish line. It is the starting gun. And it is here, exactly when you feel the ground stop shaking, that most investors make the fatal mistake. They confuse a milestone with the destination. When the snowball starts to grow, a silent disease infects the investor's brain: hubris. You spent years depriving yourself. You beat the desert. You saw the balance grow. And then you start to believe you are a genius. You look in the mirror and see Warren Buffett. You think, it took me 5 years to save 100K. If I get aggressive now, if I use options, margin, or that new crypto, I can turn this into $1 million by Christmas. They forget how hard it was to climb the hill and decide to run down into the abyss of stupidity. I saw brilliant men in 1929, in 1987, in 2008, men who built fortunes with discipline and destroyed them with haste. They take their capital, this army of soldiers they took a decade to recruit, and send them into a suicide battle. They look for shortcuts. But the market is a cruel god. It loves to humiliate the arrogant. If you think the rules of prudence and safety no longer apply to you just because you have 6 figures in the account, the market will take sadistic pleasure in proving you wrong. Others sabotage themselves more slowly. They hit 100K and decide it's time to ball out. They upgrade the house. They buy the luxury car. They burn the very capital that was supposed to make them free. Listen to me closely. Going back to zero after tasting freedom is a fate worse than never having started. When you are poor and never had anything, poverty is a natural state. There is a certain resignation to it. But when you had the capital, when you felt the safety, and then you lose it all to greed or stupidity, the darkness that follows is unbearable. The guilt corrodes you. The shame prevents you from starting over. Building the first $100,000 requires discipline. Keeping it requires humility. Growing it to $1 million requires patience. Break any of these 3 pillars and the structure collapses. So what is the final secret? The code. It is brutally simple. So simple that the financial industry spends billions to try and complicate it, to sell you courses and magic formulas. Spend less than you earn. Defense. Save the difference. Ammo. Invest in real value and ignore the noise. Rational attack. Repeat until you die. Time. There is no shortcut. There is no elevator. People hate this message. They want to hear there is a hidden secret. But I am not here to sell fantasies. I am here to give you reality. The first $100,000 is hell. It is trench warfare. It is boredom, sweat, and deprivation. But it is the only war worth fighting. Because on the other side of that trench is not just money, it is the ownership of your own life. It is the ability to say no to an abusive boss. It is the dignity of knowing your family won't starve if the economy collapses. No one can compound zero. No one can save you if you insist on living above your means. The snowball is sitting at the top of the hill, waiting for you, but it won't push itself. Put your hands in the snow, accept the cold, accept the pain, get the first $100,000, and then, please, don't be the fool who throws it away. I am Benjamin Graham, and the market is open.